So while I haven't seen Blood and Honey 1 yet, it still completes me. And there's a Blood and Honey 2, and on the books is a Blood and Honey 3. And then there's a ton more of these coming out. How excited are you for the expanding Poohniverse?
I'm pretty excited, mostly because it allows me in good company to say Poohniverse, and that's one of those things. Like there's a band called Pussifer, and the fact that they're named Pussifer allows me to say that and not make it weird. So Poohniverse is another one of those words that I'll be able to say, and it sounds like I'm saying something you can't say in certain company, but it's fine. It's the name of a franchise that no doubt will rival the MCU.
Yeah. And I think Bog Panda needs to set their sights on Rice Frake Waterfield, and we need to have him on as a guest,
I
as
agree
the
with that.
Kevin Feige of the Pruneverse. So it is something else. But so I had shared an article with Mike on uh, a number of the upcoming additional potential. Maybe they're going to happen. There's been little hints of them, almost like some post-credit scenes too. I think in some of these to start to connect them. And I'll just kind of list them off, and then we can kind of explore the the Pooniverse a little further.
So you just to clarify again, you have not seen Pooh, Blood, and Honey.
I have not. Have you?
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Yeah, I meant to see it in the theater, but I didn't. I didn't have a lot of luck there. So
I disagree with the overwhelming negative consensus of it that it got from critics. My only critique of it, and this isn't a spoiler, you'll see this, and they've acknowledged this as well. The movie looks very uneven in certain parts, and that's a result of the entire movie was shot for a very, very low budget. Then the marketing went viral. So they went back and did some reshoots with way more money than they shot the entire original movie for to add a couple of bigger set pieces to it, which is cool and they look good and it was worth it. But those scenes are just visibly different than the rest of the movie. And to me, it made it feel very, very uneven. Like there's an animated opening sequence with a really nice score. I forget the gentleman who did the score to it, but he actually recorded it using a honeycomb violin to stick with to stick with the poo and honey theme and stuff. It sounds awesome. It looks great. There's a big explosion set piece in it. That's in the trailers. I'm not giving anything away. But again, the rest of the movie looks like it was shot on cell phones. So you can tell exactly what was added afterwards, which makes the movie feel a little bit disjointed when you're watching it.
gotcha.
So that was my only problem. And they mentioned that too. Like the director, I saw like a little clip with him, and he was talking about that too. That he does feel that some of it looks a little uneven because of the reshoots, which they had more money than they shot the whole movie for those couple of scenes because of the viral marketing. But from everything I've seen in the reactions to part two, everybody seems to like it. The critics have really seemed to turn around on it. And I think it's just because it's a much more even approach to it. Like they knew exactly what this was. They're going for a specific, they have a grand plan in this, as you pointed out. So I think they're a lot more focused and they know where this is going this time.
Yeah. It so you've got we've got to look forward to, and I believe this one's in the can. Bambi the Reckoning, which was apparently shot on a 15-day shooting schedule. So so there's that. Um,
Luxurious is what I would call that.
there you go. uh, Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. Little tidbit on there. Their intended plan is to have a heavily obese Tinkerbell who is a recovering drug addict, which I think will be a nice recasting, reimagining of Tinkerbell. Pinocchio Unstrung. I'm not sure they can get creepier than the original Pinocchio, but I have confidence
My
in them.
only problem with that, and I'm trying to think if Peter Pan, I mean, Peter Pan, I guess, in a way, has kind of had horror reimaginings. I mean, the movie The Lost Boys, the famous vampire movie, heavily references Peter Pan even in the title. So I mean, there I guess you could tie it to that. I don't know that there's been a full-on Peter Pan horror movie that is well known. I should say I'm sure there is somewhere. but there is Pinocchio horror movies. So I think it's going to be hard. I know this is part of the Poohniverse, but they are going to have to work a little harder to separate that one from the pack because Pinocchio movies exist.
And Awakening Sleeping Beauty is the other one that's out there. So this is an exciting schedule. This is almost not Sharknado, but Piranhaconda level excitement when I start to hear about some of these things and I go, I've got to see these movies. Although my track record is not great since I still need to get to Blood and Honey. But these are all super exciting. Anything missing here? Any place that you think that they need to also go to?
So Bambi, I think, is interesting, but as far as we kind of touched on already with Pinocchio and also Snow White. Snow White is a character that has appeared in full-on horror films numerous times already. So I think when you're getting into stuff like what made Pooh, Blood, and Honey go so viral wasn't just the funny imagery of it. It was they were the first ones out of the gate with that. There's going to be a million Winnie the Pooh things now because anybody can. So as long as you're not infringing on the Disney version of the characters, as long as it's the book characters. So they were the first ones to kind of really make a splash with it. So I think staying ahead of the curve as much as they can is going to be the trick to this. Whereas, if you're building out this universe, you kind of have to have Peter Pan and Pinocchio and all that kind of stuff to build out this, horror Disney adjacent universe that they're doing. But at the same time, some of those characters we've already seen in these situations just because those characters were already in public domain.
Yeah, the only addition that I'd really like to see here would be Alice in Wonderland starring Alice Cooper. So
Oh, that's perfect.
that would be just
I
outstanding.
correct me if I'm wrong though. You're not a fan of Alice's acting though?
Oh, I am. It's not Alice's acting. It's Alice's. It wasn't even his acting in there. It was just the old movie of Monster Dog. It was just that particular piece in his canon of work is something that I'm not a fan of. But others, I mean, Wayne's World, he was fine. He's great in Suck. He's an awesome character
I
there.
always forget about Suck.
That is a good
Yeah.
movie. I love that
Every
movie.
time it comes up, I'm like, I like that movie.
Yeah, it's got a lot going on. And so it's a super fun movie. So folks haven't we don't do recommendation shows too much anymore. We used to back in the day, but here's a recommendation for you. Watch Suck. It's an awesome movie.
Is a good movie. I would say watch Monster Dog, but Kelly would disagree with me on
I would
that one.
disagree with that. Yeah. But
And
we
for
can
for
both.
people who are maybe just jumping on because of the Poohniverse, who aren't familiar with our stuff, Kelly, like me, loves bad movies. So he loves Alice Cooper. So why he's not on board with Monster Dog, I don't understand it.
I don't I can't explain it either. I would much rather say I love it, but I have to be honest and say I don't like it. So
It has a great song, and I don't
one
get
great
it.
song.
I said a great song.
Yeah.
There's two Alice Cooper songs in it. The second one, I don't think it's a bad song, but it definitely doesn't hold up compared to the first one.
No. First one's got that Alice flair to it that you
Yeah, the first one to me is like a classic Alice Cooper song. Like if I'm gonna cover an Alice Cooper song, like that's near the top of the list for me to consider. The
yeah.
second one, not at all. But
Yeah, with the exception of it was apparently recorded at the bottom of a well or something like that.
yeah, well,
It-
all of the audio in the movie is pretty rocky. It was an Italian production, and for anybody who's not like super steeped in bad horror movies the way that I am, Italian movies tended to have international casts where everybody was speaking different languages, and they would just go back and add dialogue and sound effects to it to just make it whatever they want it. So oftentimes the dialogue and the audio isn't great in those movies because it's all dubbed, it's all post production. Back when that wasn't digital, so it's not great.
Although I'd like to hear Identity Crises in Italian. I think that could be pretty cool. Well, we would love to hear your thoughts on the Poohniverse, and probably the best way for you to share them is to first subscribe to the YouTube channel, Bog Panda YouTube channel. Hit that bell so you can be notified when we provide updates on the Poohniverse and other things too, like retro games, bad movies from time to time, music, and also be sure to check out the world's shortest podcast, Hard No, available daily. I can keep on the public publishing schedule appropriately. Anything else to add for this show, sir?
No, I think that's it. The only thing I would mention for the cucks, since you've been seeing me drinking, this is coffee cake beer. Tasty cake coffee cake beer.
Bog Panda.